28 Years Later comes out in a couple of days, and this is everything that you need to know about the franchise to stay in the know. We first start with 28 Days Later, made in 2002. There's a group of animal activists that break into a lab in order to free all of the animals that are being experimented on. But when they do so, they run into the scientists there saying, "Do not let these animals out, they are contaminated with the Rage virus." They, of course, do not listen and they end up letting the animals out anyways, and that is when the Rage virus spreads. But the Rage virus is very unique compared to other zombie films. Normally, when someone is contaminated, they turn into this flesh eating monster, but in this case, they turn into this very aggressive and violent person. Fast forward 28 days later, we meet Jim, who just woke up from a coma in a hospital, very similar to what The Walking Dead did. This movie did it first. Jim ends up meeting a couple of people that save his life and basically just break down the zombie apocalypse to him. Frank and his daughter are among the people that Jim meets, and they basically go on this road trip to try and find sanctuary. But along the way, Frank ends up getting infected. They end up being saved by a military group who end up taking them back to their base, and that seems to be the safe place until it's not. The military group ends up being very corrupt, and they just need to get out of there. Jim ends up being able to evade them and lets their base be overrun by zombies by his design, and then he gets everyone out of there. The ending is Jim, Selena, who he met on the way, and Frank's daughter, who are basically just living on some open land, trying to flag down planes. When they see a plane, the movie ends. This is when we get 28 Weeks Later, which was made 5 years later in 2007. 28 Weeks Later starts around the same time as the first movie. Instead, it's just a bunch of people all cooped up in a cabin, trying to stay away from the infected until the infected find them. When the cabin is overrun by the infected, Dawn, our main character, ends up fleeing the entire place, completely leaving everybody, including his wife. Like, she literally stayed to try and help people, and then he just completely chickened out and ran away and just left her like that. Fast forward 28 weeks later, we are introduced to the other main characters, which is Dawn's children, Tammy and Andy. He tells them that their mother has died and they are grieving, so they end up sneaking out of the entire sanctuary that they're in, going back to their home, and trying to see if they can save a picture of their mom. The problem is that when they get there, they find out that their mom has been alive this entire time and she is just immune to the virus. So when they get her back to the safe zone, Dawn ends up finding out that she is still alive. He goes to visit her, gives her a nice kiss. The problem is the virus is still transmittable by saliva. He ends up turning, and the entire safe zone ends up not being so safe anymore. That's when we really get to meet Doyle, who ends up saving Tammy and Andy and getting them out of the safe zone. Doyle ends up doing a sacrificial death in order to get them out of the city. That does work, and they get to a helicopter where Doyle's partner is, and he reluctantly does end up letting them get on, and they take him back to France, where they're saying that there's a much better safe zone, no zombies there. Unfortunately, that is not the case. It is not a safe zone. The ending shows that Paris is also being overrun by zombies, and then the movie's over. I hope this helps you prepare for the upcoming 28 Years Later movie, and if you have any more questions, just leave them down in the comments and I'll get to you.